Okay, so let's talk about why you're getting ghosted. And I know this because this used to happen to me, and this is a lot of the shops that I work with, a lot of the shops that I train. This is the number one thing that I'm hearing is how do you prevent from being ghosted? Now, with a few caveats aside, one of those caveats, and we'll talk about it later, is not speaking directly to the merchant before submitting the file, and everyone has their own style. Let's just talk about the underlying thing that usually is the culprit here, and that's not smoking out the true objection. That's number one. Also, pitching too early. You didn't create a safe space where the merchant could feel at ease pushing back against the approval or rates and terms, things like that. You need to come off as a consultant that doesn't need their business. That's the number one thing. That's literally this whole video. If you stop watching now, just stop watching and be detached and sell like a consultant. What that means is you're not gonna be begging for their deal. You're not gonna come off that you need their deal for your commission. I get it, commission only. You know, you're using the commission to pay your rent, to pay your car bill, to buy your girlfriend's bracelet, whatever. So you have to work against the natural feeling of being desperate. Now, what's gonna happen is the more you have experience and the more your book of business grows and the more money that you make and however you decide to use it, your confidence naturally will go up. But for some people, myself included, I can't even help it. Like I just start talking fast, I start over explaining things like that. It's a constant having to go back and just examine how you're doing your sales process. So let's go into number one. Okay, so let's talk about how to smoke out the true objection. Look, your goal is not to rebuttal every objection. First, we have to expose the objection. What are the objections? Are there any? If you don't do this, then what's gonna happen is you're gonna get ghosted because you didn't cover what the objections were on the call. So an example of this is, let's say that you have a funding and it's 50K over 28 weeks. Now, when you say that to the merchant and you pitch your approval and you say, are you gonna take the approval? They say yes. Then if you leave it there, you don't really have any idea what the situation is. Maybe the guy loves it, maybe he hates it. When you pitch the approval to the merchant, let's say it's a 50K deal, 28 weeks, and they say they're gonna take it. Okay, great. Send me your driver's license, void a check, you hang up, goodbye. This is where you get ghosted. It's so classic. This is where you get ghosted because you didn't uncover any objections. So the way that we do this, the way that I train this, you know, I actually learned this from my dad in the car business, is you smoke out the true objection. So at the end of you pitching your approval, you say, okay, so we have you for 50K, 28 weeks. Is there any reason why you wouldn't move forward today? And if you be quiet, and you'll see in some of my Instagram videos and some of the YouTube and the TikTok, if you just have a space for them to respond without over-explaining, they will give you the objection. It will naturally come out because you're using that silence to build pressure for someone to break and give it out. Now, let's say you're on the weaker side of the deal and you're the rep and you can't hold that silence. And when I say weak, I mean weak in the terms of negotiation, because this is negotiation skills. So if you can't hold a comfortable silence, then you're gonna be the one to break it. So here's an example of how that would look. Okay, let's say you have the merchant here and the rep here. The rep says, hey, I have 50K for 28 weeks. Now he's quiet, okay? 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. It's kind of awkward. Now, if the merchant doesn't respond, the rep will go, oh, but also we can include early prepays, but also we can make the term longer if you need, or also, et cetera, and you sound weak. Now, the professional way, the rep says, okay, I have 50K, 28 weeks. You're quiet, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The merchant goes, okay, but I don't like the rate. Okay, but I don't like the term. Okay, but I don't like the et cetera. Now you can respond because now you have the actual objection. Your goal is to uncover the objections because you can't fight what you don't know you're up against. You're shooting in the dark. Maybe they don't care about the early prepay. Maybe there's another approval. Maybe their inventory that they were gonna use the capital for, maybe the prices went up and they need another 10K. And then the other broker that you're battling is already, pitching the 60K now on top, the 10K on top of the 50. And you're just, again, stabbing in the dark here. You have no idea until you uncover the real objection. So that's what you wanna do. You always wanna uncover the real objections. Your goal should be to find the objections on that call. And this is a reason that I like to smoke out the objection on the opening. Now, a lot of people disagree with me on this, and I train so many shops, thank God, shops that are funding, if you add them all together, probably over 120 million, 110, 120 million, something like that, thank God. And they all have a different style. Everyone has a different way. Now, if it's me and it's my reps, I'm going to smoke out that objection on the call, and my submissions will go down, but my conversions will go higher. Some shops, they don't care about the conversions. They just want to get everything in, and they just know they're going to pick up averages. If you're just one broker and you're a rep and you're doing your deals, you really don't have time for this. I say this to a lot of reps also, that if you're a shop owner and let's say you have 60 people, 80 people, you're going to catch averages. But if you're a single rep, you have to operate surgically. You can't let one deal go through, right? Because again, if you're a shop owner, you have 60, 80 at-bats every 2 minutes. If you're one person, that at-bat might come every hour or two, or every 30 minutes. So you have to be strategic. So the way that I like to do this is when I get to the end of the call on the opening, I'll say, based off their qualifications, because I'm doing a pre-underwrite, very soft underwrite based on credit score, financials, things like that. I'm gonna say, so it looks like you can possibly qualify for some working capital. It's gonna be something like a daily or weekly payment. Could that help your business? Now let's pause. A lot of people, when they hear that, they go, why are you gonna tell them it's a daily or weekly payment? On the beginning, they're gonna be like, F that, I don't want that, screw that. And that's exactly why we do it, okay? Because we wanna get those objections out of the way. So now, when I rebuttal those objections, then when I come back with an MCA, hey, our expectations, they're super aligned. They know what I'm gonna come back with. If they think they're gonna get a 10-year term, and then you come back with a 28-week deal, or they think they're getting 10% interest, and you're coming back with a 145 factor rate, it's gonna be a conversation. And again, you're gonna get those people. You're gonna close them, but you're gonna have a tougher time. I'd rather use my time wisely and not submit a deal unless I know it has legs. So again, what that sounds like is just a very brief, okay, so based on what we've spoken about, I'm gonna speak to underwriting, gonna work to get you something, the 50K, that's gonna help you cover the expansion, etc. And it's gonna be something like a daily or weekly payment. Is this something that can help your business? And then get the objections. What this is also gonna do is it's gonna save you time. So what that means is now you're gonna uncover what you need, so when you do go to the funders and you get your deals, you'll know what to ask for. So for example, let's say that you smoke out the objection and they say to you they need at least 80K to get the deal done. Now you know when you go to the funders that you need to get 80K versus just trying to get them a max approval. A lot of times what gives away your natural emotional state is your tonality. Your tonality, the pacing at which you speak, and how you structure questions. I see this happen a lot of times when I'm reviewing reps' calls, is that they'll just kind of be bouncing from place to place and not have a structured way. I know from one question, I know where 10 are going from there. I know from the second I ask credit score, depending on where it is, I have a whole word track of where I'm going. Really, it's not even a word track. It's me diving deep to find out, but it's almost like a word track because it's just kind of the same for so many situations. So what'll happen is something like this. The merchant will say, you ask the merchant what's the purpose of the capital, they'll go expansion, and you'll say, okay, great, and then let me just, oh, and what type of expansion? Or, okay, awesome. Oh, and what is your credit score? You want to sound structured because that comes off as a professional. They want to work with someone that has done this 1,000 times. This is just how things work. If somebody is desperate, it's just the natural laws of the universe. Okay, I think 50 Cent said it, that when you need something, people don't want to give it to you. But when you don't need something, then they want to give it to you, right? So at least he crystallized it. So it's a perfect example of you don't want to come off desperate. Now, there's also a couple other ways you could do this, but let's just talk about the tonalities. When people get excited, they tend to talk faster. And again, I'm super guilty of this, and I have to constantly be lowering how I speak. So you want to do this in a controlled manner. So when you're facing objections and you're talking casually with the business owner, everything you want to sound the same. Oh, the rates are too high. Okay, totally understand. That makes sense. For someone in your situation, what were the rates you were looking to pay, etc. Oh, I don't want to do a daily or weekly payment. Okay, and I totally hear that. What type of payment structure were you looking for? Okay, or whatever it is now, whenever they say whatever they're going to say, you can go back and try to get and rebuttal the objection later on. The deal really is closed, I believe, 90% on the opening. Because remember, you are going to weed out if this is somebody that actually can use your product. Not everybody can use the product. Not a lot of people want this type of product, but there are people that can qualify for this and that they can use it and use it for an objective, make money on it and be happy, and then get more future fundings. That's the client that you're looking for. You truthfully are looking for the relationship that you have this book of business. So make sure to slow down when you're speaking and be conscious of it. If they're battling you and they have a high tension and you raise your tension to match it, it's just no good. You never want to argue with the prospect, okay? If you're arguing with the prospect, you're already losing. It's that old saying, would you rather be right or happy? So with the merchant, you'd rather be happy. Let them be right. I totally understand, sir. It's wild that they gave you these rates. Let's look a little bit deeper as to why. Oh, it looks like based off credit, etc., this, that. Well, let's talk about the capital. Can you actually use it? You're rebuttaling them and you're engaging into another directive. You're reframing the conversation from what they originally said into what you're looking to go into. Another way of detachment is to use what's called, Sandler sales training talks about this. It's called upfront contracts. And it's right when you get on the call, you say things like, it might not make sense for us to speak, and if it doesn't, I'll be the first one to hang up. Or, this might not even make sense for you. I don't even know yet, and as soon as we find out, I'll be the first to say it doesn't work. I don't want to give you something that might not be able to help you. So with that being said, boom, now you're back into it. So up front, you develop this sense of you lowered their guard and you detached, right? Versus saying, okay, I can help you with anything, I can do this. This is another common thing that you don't want to be doing. I hear reps all the time saying, I have access to this, I can get you this, we do this, we're the best, etc., whatever, but they're not really, they sound like everybody else. Jeremy Miner talks about it all the time. You sound like the same exact salesperson, whereas you want to detach and see, I don't even know if I can help you yet. Let me get a couple pieces of more information. How long have you been in business? What's the capital for, etc., things like that. So you have that. If I could impart to you one thing, it's to detach from the sale, however you can. Some people, they'll put a notepad on their computer that says, $1 million or $500,000, and then they look at it and then they internalize that feeling and then they sound different. Some people just constantly remind themselves, don't be desperate, however it works. And what'll happen is eventually you'll get there if you stay in the business, God willing, and you do good business. But you can get to it a lot faster. You can sort of take a shortcut by just using the mental type of techniques to just get your mind thinking that don't need to be desperate. If you do all these things and uncover the real objections so you can work to rebuttal them and have detachment and come off like you don't need the deal and use an expert consultant type of tonality, you just will close more deals. And until you close more deals, you'll just have a better time. You won't be banging your head against the wall because you'll notice that the harder that you chase for a deal, the more that it pulls away from you. Just like anything in life. You have to be calm and let it sort of come to you. I'm not saying don't prospect. This is there's huge nuances here because this is sales and we're prospecting by nature, but I just mean in the sense that where you act like you don't need this deal to survive. What's up, guys? Quick sidebar here is that if you're a team leader, if you're a shop owner, or you're just an individual rep and you're looking for some training to sharpen your skills, how to close more deals and make more money in this business, go ahead and reach out to me directly at info@samksells.com or shoot me over a DM on my Instagram. It's @samksells, and we'll see what we can do.